Billionaire gave Black Gardener $10,000 as a cruel joke. 12 months later, it was worth millions. The mansion stood on nearly 20 acres of perfectly manicured land. Every morning, while the wealthy owners slept behind enormous glass windows, Marcus Reed, a 42-year-old black gardener, arrived before sunrise. Marcus wasn't rich. He drove an old pickup truck, lived in a modest apartment, and carefully counted every dollar he earned. But he had something money couldn't buy, an extraordinary understanding of plants. He could look at a dying tree and know exactly what it needed. He could take nearly worthless soil and turn it into a garden that looked alive with magic. For 12 years, Marcus had worked for billionaire Richard Caldwell, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city. Richard was famous for making money. He was also famous for humiliating people he considered beneath him. One afternoon, Richard invited Marcus into his private office. On the desk sat a thick envelope. Richard smiled. "Marcus, you've worked here for years. I thought I'd give you something." Marcus opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $10,000. Marcus stared at it. "Sir, I don't understand." Richard laughed. "You always talk about growing things, investments, seeds, patience." He leaned back in his chair. "So here's your chance." Marcus looked at the check. Several wealthy guests in the room laughed. Richard wasn't trying to help Marcus. He was making a joke. "Take the money," Richard said. "Do whatever you want with it. But don't come asking me for more when it disappears." Marcus quietly folded the check. "Thank you, sir." Richard expected embarrassment. Instead, Marcus smiled. "I'll make sure it doesn't disappear." Marcus didn't buy a new truck. He didn't purchase expensive clothes. He didn't spend the money on luxury. Instead, he rented a small piece of abandoned farmland outside the city. The soil was terrible. The land was covered with weeds, broken glass, and stones. Everyone who saw it told Marcus he was wasting his money. But Marcus saw something different. He saw potential. He remembered something his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. A seed doesn't look valuable until someone knows what it can become. Marcus began researching. He discovered that rare heirloom plants and specialty herbs were becoming increasingly valuable to restaurants and agricultural companies. He started with a small experimental garden. He planted rare herbs, medicinal plants, specialty peppers, and unusual heirloom vegetables. The first 3 months were brutal. Some plants died. A storm destroyed part of his crop. A supplier disappeared with his deposit. Marcus nearly lost everything. But he didn't quit. Instead, he learned. He improved the soil. He built inexpensive irrigation systems. He collected seeds from successful plants. He reinvested every dollar. By month 6, something incredible happened. A famous restaurant chef visited Marcus's farm. The chef tasted one of his rare peppers. "Where did you get these?" "I grew them." The chef looked at him in disbelief. "I'll buy everything you can produce." That first contract changed everything. Then another restaurant called. Then a specialty food company. Then a landscaping company asked Marcus to design high-end botanical gardens. His tiny operation became a real business. Meanwhile, Richard Caldwell completely forgot about the $10,000 joke. Until one morning, his assistant rushed into his office. "Mr. Caldwell, you need to see this." Richard looked up. "What?" The assistant placed a business magazine on his desk. On the cover was Marcus. The headline read, "Local gardener builds $1 million agricultural company from $10,000. Richard froze. "That's impossible." The article explained that Marcus's company had developed several highly profitable specialty crops and sustainable growing systems. Investors were now interested. Within 12 months, the company was valued at over $4 million. Richard stared at the photograph. The man he had laughed at was now a successful entrepreneur. And it had all started with Richard's joke. Richard immediately called Marcus. "I hear you're doing well." Marcus smiled. "I'm doing all right." Richard paused. "You know, that $10,000 was never meant to be serious." Marcus looked through the office window at his thriving fields. "I know." Richard's voice became uncomfortable. "I was thinking maybe we could work together." Marcus didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Richard, you gave me $10,000 because you thought it would prove I wasn't capable of building anything." Richard remained silent. "But you were wrong," Marcus continued. "I didn't need your money. I needed someone to give me a chance." Richard finally understood the lesson. The $10,000 hadn't created Marcus's success. Marcus's patience, knowledge, discipline, and courage had. A year later, Marcus returned to the mansion, not as an employee, but as a business owner. Richard offered him a partnership. Marcus accepted only on one condition. He wanted to create scholarships for young people who wanted to study agriculture but couldn't afford college. Richard agreed. Marcus smiled. "You once gave me $10,000 as a joke." Richard nodded. "And now?" Marcus looked toward the garden he had cared for all those years. "Now that joke is helping other people build their futures." Richard lowered his head. For the first time, the billionaire had nothing clever to say, because Marcus had proven something far more valuable than how to make millions. He had proven that someone's circumstances don't determine their destiny. Sometimes all it takes is one opportunity. And sometimes the person everyone laughs at becomes the person everyone wishes they had believed in. 12 months earlier, Richard had handed Marcus $10,000 because he thought the gardener was worthless. 12 months later, that gardener owned a company worth millions. And the greatest part? Marcus never became cruel when he became successful. He became generous. Because he remembered exactly what it felt like to be underestimated.